Hello and welcome in the 5th episode. In today's episode we're gonna create our number buttons in our game screen. So every time we select the specific square from our grid, we'll be able to assign the different number based on our selection. Okay, so let's get started. So open our project and go to the scenes folder, then open the game scene. First of all, I wanna actually add the background to our grid, so it will be looking a bit better. So select canvas and then right click UI image. So I will just call this image back panel. Okay, go to our graphics, then game screen, and then find the background board background, and then drag and drop this texture onto the source image, and then I will set the size to be the same size as the texture. So for the width it's gonna be 1105, and for the height it's gonna be 1128. Okay, then I'm gonna set the scale. On the X is gonna be 0.9, and on the Y is gonna be 0.585. Okay, now let's press play here and see how everything looks. Okay, so as you see, everything's fine, but our back panel is in front of our grid. So let's stop the game and then move this back panel above the grid. And then I think the back panel needs to be a bit up. I will move this back panel on the Y position to be on the 7 maybe. Let's see how it looks. Okay, I think it looks okay, but we will need a bit more. We need to add to the scale on the Y now, because as you see, this grid is a bit bigger than the back panel. So let's change this one back to be 8.8. Okay, press play, and I think everything looks good now. So we have our back panel. Okay, let's stop the game. Let's click on our main camera, and then I will select the background, and I will set the color to be white. So everything looks much nicer now. We have our grid and everything looks better. Okay, let's actually add the numbers buttons now. So I will right click on the canvas and then select create empty, and I will call this game object to be number buttons. Number buttons, okay, and then I will right click on this number buttons, then select UI image, and I will call this image to be 1, so this is going to represent the button of number 1, and then go to our game screen, graphics game screen, and then find the 1 texture, and then move this texture onto the source image. Okay, we have a 1, and then set the same size as the texture. So for the width is going to be 50, and for the height is going to be 204, and I will set the scale to be 0.9 and 0.9. Okay, and then let's move this one a bit on the side here, and then move it down. Okay, so we have our button now. Let's add a few scripts to our project. So go to the scripts folder, and then right click, create C# script, and I will call this script number button. Okay, let's open the script. So first of all, I will remove all of the comments from here. Let's include a few libraries. So first of all, put using Unity Engine .ui, then using Unity Engine .events, and then using Unity Engine .event systems. Okay, so we need all of those inside this class. So the first thing, let's remove this mono behavior. So we don't want to inherit from the mono behavior. Instead, we're gonna inherit from the selectable. Then we want to also inherit from iPointer click handler. Then from iSubmit handler. Then from iPointer up handle, and then from iPointer exit handler. Okay, so this we need to inherit from these interfaces in order to receive the on-click event and on-up event and handle it in this script. So as you see now, we have two errors. This is because we need to implement the function from these interfaces. So if you select the interface and then press F12 to go to the definition, you see this on-point-click function. This function needs to be implemented in our class. So I will just copy this definition. And in my class number bottom, right below the update function, I will just paste this definition in. I will put public at the beginning, okay? And then let's put the braces. So as you see, we don't have an error anymore. And we need to do the same for the iSubmit handle. So go to the definition F12, copy this implementation, close this file, and then paste this implementation, this function in. And I will just put the public in the front. Okay, so we need to implement those two. Okay, so we have our class. Let's go back to Unity. Let's clear all of the errors because this is from the previous rounds. Okay, select our one button and then drag and drop the number button script onto the one button. Okay, so we have our, as you see, we have our transitions, and we can select the same as the normal button. This is because we inherit from the selectable script. Actually, if we are in Visual Studio, in the number buttons, we need to add one more variables, the public variables. So it's gonna be public int value will be equal to 0. Okay, so this value will represent the value of our button. Okay, let's save everything and go back to Unity again. Select our one button, and then in our script right below we have a value. So let's set the value to be 1. Okay, because this is the button representing number 1. Okay, let's go back to the scripts folder, right click and create C# script. And I will call this script game events. Okay, and then let's open this game event script. Okay, so in this project we're going to use the events. We're going to create some delegates and some events from within the Unity. If you're not familiar with the events or delegates, don't worry about it because I will show you how to implement it. And this event system will really help us to write much cleaner code without hassle between different classes. So the game events will hold all of the events for our game. So I will remove everything from this class because we don't need any update function or start function or nothing at all. And then inside this class, the first delegate I wanna create is gonna be public delegate and then void. Okay, and I will call this delegate update square number. Update square number. Okay, and then I will pass int number. Okay, so this is delegate, and now we can create event of the type of this delegate. So let's do that. So public static. The event will be static because we don't want to create instance of this class in order to call that event. so I will make it static, and then event, and I will copy this update square number. So this is going to be event of the type of this delegate, and I will call it on update square number. Okay, and then right below I will create one more function, so public static void update square number method. Okay, and then we need to pass int number. So we need to pass the same arguments as this delegate accept. Okay, so inside this class, inside this function, we will check if on update square number. So if this event is not equal to null, we wanna do on update square number, and we want to pass the argument, which is the number. Okay, so what this function will do, this function will cause that every single function which gonna be assigned to this event will be executed when we were gonna call this function. Okay, so let's save everything and go back to our number button. So inside our number button, we have onPointClick function. So onPointClick is every time you click on the button. So every time we click on this number button, let's in our example on the one button, we want to send the event. We want to execute actually the events. So game events dot update square number method, and we want to pass this value as a parameter. Okay, so for the button number 1 is going to be 1. So this function will cause that all of the function which is going to be assigned to this event will be executed. Okay, so we calling this this onUpdate method function. Now we need to assign some function to our event. Okay, so let's go to our grid square class, and inside this class we need to make a few changes. Okay, the first change is we're gonna actually add some usings at the top. So first of all, using Unity engine dot events, and then using Unity engine dot event systems. Okay, and we need to actually put the same events as we did for our number button. So first of all, I want to inherit from iPointer click handle, then from iSubmit handle, from iPointer up handle, and from iPointer exit handle. Okay, so I want to inherit from all of those interfaces, and then of course the same as in our number button, we need to implement this on pointer click. So I will copy this function, and right below I will add this function in. Public, okay. And then from the iSubmit handle, let's press F12, and I will copy this on submit. Let's close this class, and right below in our grid square class I'm gonna pass it, and I will put public in front, and let's put some braces. Okay, so I hope this is clear, this concept is clear for you. You need to implement this function from the interfaces, otherwise you're gonna have an error. Okay, so let's save everything. Okay, so in this class we gonna need one more variable. So right at the top below the number I will put another variable, private, bool selected will be equal to false, And I will also put the same on the our start method. So selected will be equal to false. Okay, so the selected variable will indicate if the button has been selected or not. So let's create the getter function for this variable, as this variable is private. So right below this variable, I will put public bool is selected, and then I will return selected. Okay, so we can call this function from outside of this class. Okay, so we're gonna need actually one more variable. So below this selected, right at the top, I will put another private int, and then square index. And I will assign it to -1 at the start. Okay, and then we will create below this is selected. I will put another public variable, void set square index, and then I will put int index. Okay, and this function is gonna just set the square index, so I will just copy the square index will be equal to index. So now we need to call this set square index from our Sudoku grid. So open our Sudoku grid class, and then go to our spawn grid squares function, and then inside this function I will add one more local variable, so int square index will be equal to 0. Okay, and then inside this for loop below the instantiate I will put grid squares at grid squares dot count -1 dot get component, and we want to get the grid square, okay, and then dot set square index, and we want to pass this square index variable in. Okay, and then right below this last grid squares I will put square index ++. Okay, so we want to increase the square index. Okay, so let's go back to our grid squares. Let's actually save everything before we do that and go to our grid squares. We want to add another game event to our class. So before we change this class any further, let's go to our game events and let's put one more event which we're gonna need. So right below this I will just put some more spaces. I will put public delegate void square selected. Square selected, and I will just put int square index. So this event I'm gonna call whenever we click on the certain square in our grid. Okay, so to just assign the square index. And then below we need to put public static event of the type square selected, and I will call it on square selected. Okay, and then as previously we need to put public static void, and there's gonna be square selected method, and I need to put the same parameter as is here, so int square index, and then we want to put the if statement, so if square selected is not equal to null, we want to execute on square selected, and we want to pass the square index. Okay, so that's it. Let's save everything, and now we can go back to our Sudoku, to our grid square class. So okay, and then in our go to our onPointClick function, and then inside this function I will just set the selected variable to be equal to true, and then we want to call the gameEvents dot square selected method. Okay, and then I want to pass our square index variable which we just created. Okay, and then put column. Now let's actually add some function to our gameEvents which we just created. So in order to add assign the function to be executed on this event, we need to create two classes, two functions. So first it was going to be private void onEnable. So onEnable function is exposed by Unity, and then we were going to call the private void onDisable. Okay, so let's first of all in our onEnable function put gameEvents dot on update square number. Okay, and then I will put class equal on set number. Okay, we don't have this function yet. We're going to create it in a minute, but first of all I will just copy this line of code and put on disabled. So in on disabled function we're not going to add the function to our event, we're just going to remove it. So in order to remove the function from the event, just instead of plus put minus. Every time you add the function to the event, make sure you delete the function from the event as well. If you don't do that, you might have undefined behavior and your game might just crash. So make sure you always do that. You always remove the function whenever you add the function. Okay, so let's create this onSetNumber function. So right below, I will put public void onSetNumber, and then onSetNumber function have to have the same parameter list as our update square number delegate. Okay, so we need to put int number. And need to return the same type, so it need to be type of void. Okay, if I try to put any more parameters here, let's say int x, you see we cannot assign this function to our event because the parameter list is not the same. So make sure you always put the same parameter list as the one in the delegate. Okay, so let's actually move this class back. Now let's add another function. Let's assign to our another event. So gameEvents dot on square selected, and I will put class equal on square selected. Okay, and I will just copy this line and put it in the disabled, and make sure you instead of plus you put minus. Okay, so we're gonna remove this function, and then I'm gonna right below onSetNumber I will put another function. So public void on square selected, and I will pass int square index. Okay, let's actually implement this function. So if inside this on square selected, we're gonna put if square index is not square index with the underscore. So we want to reference to our local variable. Let's actually see square index. Okay, so we want to put this square index from this variable, from this class, is not equal to our square index, which we pass. So if we select different square, we want to set the selected to be equal to false. Okay, and that's it for this function. So let's go to our onset number. So in our onset number function, we want to put the if statement. So if the certain square is selected, then we want to call our function setNumber. SetNumber, and we want to pass the number. Okay, let's actually save everything now and see how this implementation works in our game. So go to our Unity, and we need to actually add a few more buttons here before we can test anything. So first of all, we have our button number 1, and we have a value 1. Okay, I will just go to our prefab folders, and I will just actually first of all rename this button, this one, to be number button. Number button. Okay, and then I will just drag this number button and drop it in our prefab folder. So we're going to create the prefab from our number button. Okay, and then I will remove this number button. Actually, I will not remove it. I will just edit it and change the name to be 1. Okay, and then let's double click on the number button. So we're going to open this prefab, and now in our number button script, I will change the select color, the press color and the select color to blue. So press color is gonna be blue, maybe like that. Okay, and I will copy this hexadecimal value and paste this value inside our selected color. Okay, so we have a selected color and a disabled color to be different than the normal. Okay, let's go back. So press this small arrow here and then save. So we're gonna save the changes. We have a button number 1. So let's duplicate this button a few times. Okay, then second button will be number 2. So I'm gonna go to my game screen, and then I will drag and drop the number 2 texture in, and then move it on the side. And of course I need to change the width and the height. So the width would be 71 and the height would be 102. Okay, move it like that. Okay, then number 3. I will drag and drop the 3 texture in and set the same size. So it's gonna be 71 by 104. And move it on the side. So we need to do that for every single number. So number 4 now, the texture number 4, and then the size is going to be 80 by 105. Okay, now let's do number 5. Drag and drop the number 5 texture, 71 by 102. So I'm just putting these numbers in. Okay, and then move it on the side. The number 6. So the texture number 6, 72 by 104. Okay, then number 7, texture number 7, the width 71 by 102, and then move it on the side. Number 7. So let's duplicate the number 7 again. We need number 8, and then texture number 8. So it's going to be 72 by 104, and move it on the side. Okay, and then we need to duplicate this number 8 and put it as a 9, and then drag and drop this 9 texture. 72 by 104, that's correct. So it's move on the side. Actually, I will make a bit more spaces, so position yourself however you like. So we just want to fit all of the buttons. Okay, I think looks kind of okay. You can position it better to make like the spaces between those a bit more even. Okay, we forgot to do one thing. We need to go through all of the buttons and make sure we have a value which is corresponding to the value of the button. So for the number 1 is gonna be 1. For the number 2, the value need to be 2. For number 3, the value need to be 3, and so on. So for 4 is 4, for 5 is 5, for 6 is 6, for 7 is 7, for 8, 8, and for 9 is 9. Okay, so we have everything in. Let's save everything. So file save, and go back to our game to our scenes and open the menu, because we need to start this game from our menu screen. So let's press play, and then let's test if everything is working. So if we select the square, let's say this square, and then press number 1, we have our number 1 in. Okay, so let's do it again. Number 2, we have number 2. If we select the square and number 5, okay. So let's do one more change. So go back to our game screen. Go back to our menu screen and open our prefabs. In our prefabs, open the grid square, so double click on it, and then grid square. Let's change on selected, the selected color to be the same color as the press color. So I will just open the press color, copy the hexadecimal value, and open the selected color, and then paste that value in. Okay, and then let's go back, press this small arrow, save, and then let's press play again. So play, easy. So if we select the square, we know which square is selected currently. Okay, so we select this square and we press number 9, and we have our number 9 in. Okay, and that square is going up. 8, 6, 5, 4. Okay, so everything seems to be working fine. Of course, this game is not really playable yet because we're not checking if the certain number can be placed in the certain square. So in the next episode, we actually will make a bit more clearer. We're gonna position them a bit. We're gonna stack the squares on our board a bit better, so we will see the 9 by 9 squares inside. So I think that's it for this episode. If you like this series, please consider subscribing and leave the like. If you have any problem with this implementation, please leave me a comment and I will try to help you out. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again in the next episode.